Do the ends justify the means? We've all heard the argument that you can't fight fire with fire. That doing that makes us no better than them. Whenever you hear this argument, I want you to think not just about the most extreme means, but about all of the means that are employed by those that you think are evil. Consider the means of speech, for example. Hitler used speech. We use speech. Therefore, our use of speech would appear to make us on par with Hitler. Now, you might say that it wasn't his use of speech per se, but that's kind of irrelevant for two reasons. First of all, a lot of evil has been done with speech in the past. We wouldn't have a word like demagogue if that wasn't the case. But secondly, we're talking about whether ends justify means. Clearly, the means of speech can be used by both good and evil. And our use of speech, my use of speech right now, does not make us no better than them. Vox Day had a passage in Social Justice Warriors Always Lie, where he talks about this principle. It's worth quoting him at length, and this should not in any way discourage you from going out and buying his wonderful book. But what he says is, once the enemy sets a precedent by utilizing a certain tactic, you are not only free to utilize that tactic against him, but you must do so if you wish to prevent him from continuing to use it successfully against you. This is a principle that makes many people uncomfortable, but it is important to understand that what distinguishes us from them is not the type of air we breathe or the sort of tactics upon which we rely, but our ultimate objectives. These ends do not justify the means, nor do they need to do so, as the means are fully justified by our enemy's use of them. The ends simply serve to make it perfectly clear that we are not them, and they are not us. The reason that the Germans did not use gas in World War II after introducing it in World War I was not because they had become more civilized, but because the French and British responded in kind. It is the ultimate purposes for which the tactics are used that matter, not the tactics themselves. So, again, Hitler isn't different from us because he happens to use speech as we do, nor are we equivalent to Hitler because we use bombs as he did. Again, to pull in another person who Vox Day relies upon, Aristotle states at the opening of his treatise on rhetoric that the charge that the power of speech can be used for purposes of evil. He says, that is a charge which can be made in common against all good things except virtue. And he goes on to elaborate how strength or health are evil when they are of use to evil people. They're not the things themselves, but the purposes to which they are designed. So, to answer the question, of course the ends justify the means. If the ends didn't justify the means, there would be no reason for any action at all. The ends don't justify all means, nor do they justify all means equally, nor are all ends justification for the same means to equal degree. And this plays out differently in peace and war. But yes, the ends do justify the means. They have to justify the means.